Miracle 3. Loving My First Enemy. You have to understand, I grew up Mr. Clean. I was the protected only child of fundamentalist parents, attended 3 services a week in a church with the motto, the Bible, the whole Bible, and nothing but the Bible, in a town which billed itself as the home of the world's largest Bible conference. The famed American evangelist Billy Sunday called my small town his retirement home, and it was the headquarters for 2 evangelical denominations, a Christian college, 2 seminaries, and a score of other evangelical missions and charitable organizations. The town was so Christian that at one time there was an effort to restrict property ownership to born-again Christians. In this context, I took my first job out of college working at the local 4-year collegiate institution on the campus of the seminary I was attending. In that role, I reported to an administrator who was a very committed Christian, and we got along fine. When I expressed interest in making a career in college administration, the college leadership agreed to help me pursue master's and Ph.D. degrees at a state university with some financial aid. In addition, the administrator to whom I reported promised me a position with the college when my graduate school work was finished. 3 years later, with my graduate school work nearly completed, I returned to full-time service with the college and discovered that the position I had been promised had been given to another person. I was extremely angry, felt betrayed, and wasted about 3 months raging internally and trying to figure a way to get justice, read that, revenge, against the man who had not fulfilled his promise to me. In the meantime, my 90-day rage was getting to me. It was exposing the poverty of my Christian life and the hypocrisy of my claims to be a follower of Jesus. If there was any precept that had been burned into my consciousness since infancy, it was, God is love. Jesus taught unconditional love, even for enemies. Love for God and others is the primary evidence that one has been touched by the new birth experience through faith in Christ. For sure, I was not overcome with love for my boss. Quite the contrary. I had been a born-again Christian for 17 years at the time, and when confronted with the boss's character weakness, I failed the most basic and fundamental test of a Christ follower. It occurred to me that not only could I not love an enemy, I couldn't even love a Christian brother and friend. I remember putting my head on the desk in my office and confessing my sin of bitterness, resentment, and desire for revenge to God. I asked Him to give me love for my boss and thanked Him for hearing my prayer. I've had enough psychology to know that there are significant therapeutic benefits from owning our own weaknesses and confessing them. This is the central dynamic of most behavior change and the heart of the counseling experience. But this was different. When I finished that prayer, I felt as if a 100-pound sack of cement had been lifted off my soul. I sensed that I had been cleansed of the bitter, negative, critical, vengeful attitudes and emotions. I sensed that I actually loved my boss, that is, was motivated toward him and his best interests, not my own. After work, I rushed out of my office and across the front campus of the college to the little love nest my wife and I had bought as our first home. I burst in the door and said, God has solved my problem. I don't know what she thought, maybe that my superior had gone into cardiac arrest and died. I explained, it's not my problem. God will take care of this. I shared the instantaneous turnaround in my attitude and my newfound love and care for my friend upon finishing my prayer. Oh, that's not a miracle, some may say. That is just normal behavioral dynamics at work. Maybe. But the dramatic change in an instant from such deep-seated bitterness, especially in direct response to a prayer, leads me to suggest that God intervened into the natural or behavioral order with His spiritual power and acted as a change agent. It was a change I didn't even want. I was enjoying being resentful and vengeful before His touch. I love the comment, harboring bitterness and resentment is like drinking rat poison and then waiting around for the rats to die. God's antidote for this bitterness poisoning is a miraculous release from the motivational and emotional bondage, release far beyond counseling or behavior modification. It is spiritual liberation.